Of Locked On Phillies, is Cristopher Sanchez building a true NL Cy Young case? Seemed like it after last night.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic doing sports talk radio here in the great city of Philadelphia for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure that you're rating and reviewing if you're listening to this in podcast form. You can get Locked On Phillies wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch the show on YouTube. And if you're doing that, hit that subscribe button on the Locked On Phillies YouTube channel. It's free and easy to do all that stuff, but it'll get you notifications when new podcasts are posted. And that way you can keep up with all the great Phillies content. And it really helps us out as well here on Locked On Phillies. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Cristopher Sanchez, dominant last night. Just a ridiculous performance on the mound by him. We're going to start by talking about that. We're also going to talk about the latest on Aaron Nola's injury status because we got a pretty big update on Aaron Nola yesterday. And the Phils will go for the sweep of the Red Sox tonight. We will preview that game with Jesus Luzardo on the mound. Another point in the data set that is a weird year so far for Jesus Luzardo, but his last start was great. Speaking of last starts being great, Cristopher Sanchez can wake up today and say, my last start was great. It was exceptional. It was one of the starts of the year for the Philadelphia Phillies. The only other one in remote contention was Zack Wheeler's near-perfect game where he went complete game, struck out 12, allowed 1 earned on a home run. Well, Cristopher Sanchez last night went complete game, struck out 12, allowed 1 run on a home run. That was the only one he allowed earned. Now, the difference is Wheeler gave up 1 hit, Sanchez gave up 4. But still, I mean, let's not talk about these performances like one was strikingly better than the other. Cristopher Sanchez was every bit as good last night as Zack Wheeler has been in his best starts this year. And Cristopher Sanchez himself has been just about as good as Zack Wheeler. Now, I'm still saying that Wheels has had the better season. He's still the favorite for the National League Cy Young Award in my mind. But Cristopher Sanchez, my God, is he building himself a case. His numbers look amazing. And last night he had everything working. He's just got a great 3-pitch mix, plus fastball, plus changeup. And I'd say an above average breaking ball as well to go in that. But obviously the bread and butter is his fastball changeup combo, how he tunnels those, the breaks. And I brought it up yesterday on the podcast. The Red Sox, if they have a weakness offensively, they are a team that can strike out a bunch. Well, point proven, ladies and gentlemen. This is why you do the research. And that's why Cristopher Sanchez had himself a nice night last night. But he also just kept everything to pretty weak contact, even the balls that were recorded out in the field. He just didn't really get touched up at all. And he has it all year. And he needs to be in that conversation for National League Cy Young. Right up there with Wheeler, right up there with Skeens. In fact, there are some numbers on the amount of innings and how deep Cristopher Sanchez is going into games that would put him ahead of Skeens right now. I'm not going to get greedy and say Wheeler, Sanchez, Skeens, top 3 for the National League Cy Young Award. I don't know. I would love for the Major League Baseball Rules Committee or Awards Committee or whatever it is that gives out these awards to say joint Cy Youngs, Sanchez, Wheeler. How cool would that be? But that's also not a realistic thing that you're going to see. All that matters is this. The Phillies have an ace in Zack Wheeler and a second ace in Cristopher Sanchez. Yeah, he's that good. And I thought about it. It was hard not to think about it. And it's funny because I wasn't the only one. Rob Thompson talked about this. The growth that Cristopher Sanchez is going through, right? Cristopher Sanchez is a guy who just a couple of years ago was up and down from the minors, was in the bullpen, then the starting rotation, then back to the bullpen. He was doing a whole bunch of different stuff. He was not this bona fide true starter. He was a pitcher with a really good changeup that had potential. And that was it. And that could be any number of guys in Major League Baseball at a given time, right? He wasn't this top prospect. He wasn't this sure thing. And he certainly wasn't given the lion's share of the opportunities in the Phillies pitching staff. But he took what he got and he built on it and he developed and he worked, added muscle, added velocity. And you don't see that often where a guy goes from 94 to 97 over the course of one offseason. But that's essentially what Cristopher Sanchez did. And that makes the changeup play better. And that has turned him from a good and above average starting pitcher to a great or elite one. Way back in spring training, I remember hearing this from Jason Stark. I talked to him about it. Cristopher Sanchez is a guy that a lot of people are asking about. Is he a dark horse Cy Young candidate? Well, there ain't no dark horse no more. He is a bona fide Cy Young candidate in the National League, and the Phillies have him on their roster, and they have him locked down. Listen to this. Through the 2030 season under team control, he is getting paid $2.05 million this year. Talk about a great deal by Dave Dombrowski and the rest of the front office and John Middleton to give them the money to do that and sign him to extension and buy out one of his pre-arb years and the rest of his arbitration time. That is a great decision with how you look at it right now. As much as we love Ranger, as much as Wheeler is dominant right now, the future of this Phillies rotation could be Cristopher Sanchez at the top. And that's not even considering Andrew Painter, Mick Abel, whoever's still here after the trade deadline. The rotation, they're going to be okay. They're going to be just okay, especially if Cristopher Sanchez continues like this. So he was awesome in the game. And it was great. You know what? Credit to Rob Thompson. I would not have done this. I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't have sent Cristopher Sanchez out for the ninth inning. Now, what happened was he had a conversation, Rob Thompson did, with Sanchez and was like, yo, you good? And Sanchez was like, yeah, I wouldn't lie to you. I'm good. Send me back out there. And he did, and he trusted him. Now, I think it makes it easier when your bullpen is not great to say, hey, let's roll with this guy. But also, it would be easy to say, dude, you just threw 96 pitches through 8 innings. Let's end on a high note. We can get 3 outs with the score 4-1 as it was at that point heading into the ninth inning. But Rob Thompson trusted his guy. Credit to Topper. Credit to Sanchez for wanting the ball. Credit to him for finishing as well with a 1-2-3 ninth inning. Throw 2 more strikeouts on there. Yeah, as dominant of a performance as you're going to see from any pitcher around baseball all year. There's very few levels above the start that Cristopher Sanchez just gave you, and it's pretty much no hitter or a perfect game. That's how good he was. So, yeah, love that. And it makes you think about October, right? And how you could potentially take over the first couple games of a series with Wheeler and Sanchez. Just last year, we were having conversations about Sanchez. Can he throw on the road? Is he able to go into a hostile environment? Now, I know this start was at home, but my point is this. Is anyone having that conversation about Cristopher Sanchez today? No, because he has turned himself into a stud. And credit to Caleb Cotham and the Phillies pitching coach staff that has worked with Sanchez to do that. The development's been insane, both on his individual part and on the part of the organization. There were a couple other high notes in the game. Phil's jumped on Richard Fitz earlier in the game. They only scored in the first 2 innings. Scored 2 in the first, 2 in the second. One via catcher's interference on a Bryce Harper straight steal of home attempt where he would have been safe. I wish they wouldn't have called catcher's interference because Bryce Harper would have just had a straight steal of home, and now it doesn't count as a stolen base, but whatever. That's more just for the vibes of it. On the counter side, the plus vibes of another catcher's interference is we get to laugh at the Red Sox. Like, are you guys addicted to catcher's interference? Getting walked off the night before and then doing it again, like right off the rip in game 2 of the series. If there's, I don't know if it exists on our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook's website there or the app. If you can bet a catcher's interference to happen in a game, maybe throw some money on that for tonight because 2 for 2 already in this series. Just insane that Narvaez has gotten 2 of those, but it was the right call. Kyle Schwarber goes yard for his 33rd of the year. He just continues to rip the cover off the baseball. He's starting to find his stride again. And Max Kepler hits a home run. Great, I guess. I mean, power is kind of supposed to be his thing. Average was supposed to be more of his thing than where he's sitting right now. But maybe this starts something. I don't know. I'm not looking at this and saying, see, Max Kepler, he's just fine. No, he's been really, really bad this year. But you got to give him credit when he goes yard. Helped the team win yesterday. We'll see if that continues for Max Kepler. He's going to get opportunities until the trade deadline. We'll see if in 7 days, a week from today, right? What's today? The 23rd? 8 days. A week and a day from today. We'll see if he's still on the team, in his position, if he's platooning. But for now, Everything he can give this team is a good thing. I'm not rooting against Kepler because that would be in the counterproductive interest of the Phillies, but I'm not expecting him to do that very often. I'm more excited by Schwarber. And Harper had an all right night at the dish as well. He still seems like he's seeing it well. Nick Castellanos with an RBI early. It was good. It was not great that the Phillies offense died down from the third inning on, but at the end of the day, with Sanchez throwing the way he did, it didn't really matter. And that's the thing. The Red Sox are a quality team. Are they a postseason team? They're right on the fringe right now. They may make it. They might not. But they're not the Rockies. They're not the Rays. They're not like the White Sox, these bad teams around baseball, right? They're a team that you can say, okay, that's a quality opponent. They had the number one offense against left-handed pitchers in the league coming into the game yesterday. And it makes you think, okay, well, we only scored in 2 innings, the Phillies did. 7 of the 9 innings, they were held scoreless. And they still won the game comfortably 4-1 because starting pitching was that dominant. That makes you think about October and why keeping starting pitching on the roster is just so important for this team. That's going to be what carries them where they need to go with a little help from the offense. And plus, on top of the starting pitching they got last night, they got some good news, tentatively, on another starter. What's the latest on Aaron Nola's injury front? He has not pitched since May 14th against the St. Louis Cardinals in Game 2 of a doubleheader way back months ago. Where is he at now? We'll talk about it coming up next as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Monarch Money first, though, because they are the absolute best when it comes to managing your finances. They've got all the tools that you need, all locked in the same place. So if you've ever wished that managing your money was easier, well, with Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app, like I was telling you. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Having everything in one app makes it so much easier to manage day to day. I don't know what your screen time is like, but for me, with what I do, I'm on my phone a lot. I'm on screens a lot. I feel like a lot of people are in the year 2025. And sometimes when you check this app, that app, and you lose stuff. You forget, oh, did I look at this? Did I check this account? What's going on with my investments here? Monarch Money puts that all together for you. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. You need to start making your finances work for you. And that's why you need our friends over at Monarch Money. So the latest on Aaron Nola, who to me is not part of the Phillies' significant plans right now. That's just reality. Hasn't pitched since May 14th. You remember May 14th, right? Game 2 of a doubleheader against the Cardinals. They won Game 1. They go out in Game 2. And the offense gets rolling early. Nola got through a clean first inning. And then he just gets absolutely shelled. I remember exactly where I was watching it. The bar I was watching in, the feeling that I had, get this off my screen. What is wrong with Aaron Nola? I have no idea. And then he goes on the injured list for the ankle sprain. Then he gets sick. Then he has the rib fracture. And the next thing you know, we're sitting here on July 23rd, and he has not pitched since. But we may see signs of life from Aaron Nola. He threw a bullpen yesterday, a 42-pitch bullpen, by the way. This was no throw me 15 and sit down. No, he threw an extensive work all of his pitches type of bullpen. And things went well, according to what Rob Thompson had to say and what they reported on the Phillies broadcast last night from the TV side. So the next step is going to be for Aaron Nola to throw live batting practice up at Yankee Stadium over the weekend. So the Phils are heading up after their series with the Red Sox to face the Yankees. And after that, when Aaron Nola throws his live batting practice up there, could be a minor league rehab assignment. That could be the next step for him in this whole recovery process. So get that done. Make sure he can face live batters, put him down in the minors, have him make 2 or 3 starts, then bring him back up. So let's think about that. Okay, he goes to New York. That's the end of this week. Then after that minor league start, you're probably going to want to give him a little bit of time before he makes his first start just so he's set and recovered and everything like that as far as how he feels from live batting practice. Maybe he'll do live batting practice again. It'll take like a week for him to get settled up with a minor league team, 2 or 3 starts, another 1 or 2 weeks. I'm thinking that a good deadline, right, is the second week of August. If we haven't seen Nola come up and be with the major league team and make a start by the second week of August, like the end of the second week of August, that's when you start to look at it again and go, what in the world's going on? But we finally have a bit of a time frame. So we'll keep an eye on that. Now, how does Nola fit in is the question. And that's anybody's guess, including the Phillies. It depends what you get from him, right? Here's the range for Nola. Nola can be anywhere from a Ranger Suarez caliber pitcher to a not in the rotation, should not be on the team caliber pitcher. I don't know what guy you're getting back, right? What we saw at the start of the year is not remotely good enough. If that happens again, I don't even know what you do with the guy. You sit him down for the year? Who knows? Let's hope that that doesn't happen. Let's say he's somewhere in the middle where he, I don't know, finishes out with 6 or 7 starts and he has like a 4.2 ERA or something like that. It's not great. It's not bad. It's just kind of, and I'm talking about in those starts. Obviously, I know his numbers are much higher based on the start of the season to him. Then you get into the question of, is he in the playoff rotation? Does he go to the bullpen? How do we utilize this guy? Because it's kind of half and half. And then there's the other one where he goes out and he looks like vintage Aaron Nola, where he can get outs. And you know that in the postseason, he's had success. And you say, wow, it's going to be very hard for us to leave this guy out of the playoff rotation. And that could happen. Like legitimately the start of the year, maybe there were injuries that he was just fighting through. And that was leading to the poor performance. And while he was rehabbing, he also worked on some mechanical stuff. And when he comes back, he's the guy that the Phillies expected they were getting when they gave him that very lucrative long-term contract. Remember, we're just talking about this year. The long-term contract, God only knows if that's going to play out, right? We will see. But that's a problem for 25 offseason, 26 regular season, so on and so forth. Right now, we are in the 2025 regular season. So I need to know how Aaron Nola is going to help this baseball team today. And I'm still keeping the same exact thought process when it comes to Aaron Nola. And that's very little thought. I don't know how he's going to help. I don't know if he's going to help. I am not counting on him to help. I have not seen anything this year from him to say, well, he's going to come back and be fine. I don't think he's washed, but I don't know that he's going to be able to contribute to this team in a positive manner. So he's kind of in the same boat as Painter and Abel, not available to trade because no one's taking that contract and the Phillies are not trading him. But in that, yeah, they're going to be down there, and I don't know what they are, and anything you get from them is a bonus. And that's easy to say because the rotation has been so good. I mean, with Wheeler, Sanchez, Suarez, Lazardo, you have everything you need in the starting rotation, at least you think at this point, to get through the postseason. You don't need Nola to start. But if he's really good, you might want him to start. And then that throws a wrench into all of the plans that you had in a positive way. More good pitching is never a bad thing. The Phillies will figure out who goes where. But we'll see. So that's your Aaron Nola injury update. Nothing too crazy on as we're on the injury front. On Alec Boehm, Joe Ross, we haven't talked about it on the podcast, but he went on the injured list. So Alan Ronhell is back up with the team. We'll see if he throws in tonight's game against the Red Sox. He's been up and down a little bit, had a couple of appearances with the Philadelphia Phillies already this year. So we'll see how they use him. But Joe Ross is out for a while. All right, well, fine. And Alec Boehm, it didn't sound like it would be anything major. We talked about that with Dave Dombrowski's comments. How he said Boehm probably won't be out that long. It won't affect the trade deadline conversation. So you know it's not like this season in jeopardy type of injury. We'll just see if he comes back in the next couple weeks. I'd look at it as like a 2-week stint right now. So we're on July 23rd. Give it 2 weeks from this date, and first week of August would be the deadline for Boehm to come back. So Phillies are getting healthier, I guess. Boehm going down, not good, but Nola coming back, potentially good. So that's a step in the right direction for the Fightins. And none of these injuries, knock on wood as I always do because I don't want to jinx the boys, none of these injuries have been majorly taxing or majorly serious for the Phillies to the point where you're losing guys for the season. Plenty of other teams have and still are. So you want to be careful with the guys. Part of the reason that I talked about in the first segment, I wouldn't have sent Cristopher Sanchez back out for the 9th, but he said it was fine. It worked out great. Credit to Rob Thompson for trusting his dude. Credit to the Phillies for continuing to work with Aaron Nola, but we'll see if that level of trust that has been developed for Suarez and Sanchez and Lazardo and already existed for Wheeler continues with Aaron Nola this season, or if they kind of say, hey, whether you're healthy or not, you better perform or you're on the outside looking in. This is no longer he's been with the organization so long, we reward him with a postseason start situation. This is pedal to the metal. We got to try and win something. So what you can give us is what you can give us. And if it's not enough, you will not throw. That's where I'm at with Nola, and we'll see how that plays out. Coming up next, we are going to dive into a chance for the Phillies to sweep. They won their first series since the All-Star break, their first series in basically 2 weeks because they were on a 3-series losing streak. We will see if they can turn this not just from a 1 series into a sweep. And you got another guy who's got great strikeout stuff on the mound tonight in Jesus Luzardo. So we'll talk about that coming up next and preview everything about Game 3 of Phillies Red Sox as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about open phone, though. Open phone is the absolute best if you're running a business and you need to make sure that all of your calls are captured. Because if you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency, like maybe a burst pipe in your home. Well, you call the first plumber and they don't answer. Well, what are you doing? You don't sit there and wait. You don't leave a message and say, okay, I guess I'll stand around while this water pours into my home. No, you call the next one and then the next one and the next one until you get a person on the line and say, yo, I got a deal at my house. Come fix it so my home isn't underwater, right? That's why having a reliable business line is so important. And that's why you need open phone, because when those people call, you want to be there to answer. Open phone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. Maybe you used to juggle 2 phones just to keep up business and personal calls and keep those separate as well. Well, open phone solves that instantly. Plus, your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more like who's handling this emails. And the AI agent handles after-hour calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so that you never miss a customer again. Open Phone is even offering Locked On Phillies listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonmlb. That's openphone, openphone.com/lockedonmlb. And if you have existing numbers with another service, well, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Go ahead and check them out at openphone.com. Game 3, Phillies-Sox. Can the Phillies pull off the sweep? Well, it would certainly be a momentum builder for them, considering they've lost 3 series in a row. Now, well, technically not, now that they've won this series, but you still want to go for the sweep when you get it. I will say it again. I will say it forever. Tonight is bonus baseball. Winning 2 out of 3 is good enough in series. Losing 2 out of 3 is not. So the Phillies do have some ground to make up based on losing 3 series in a row, but at the same time, tonight is just a icing on the cake, cherry on top of the sundae. This is just gravy. Must be lunchtime. A lot of food analogies. Well, it's going to be Jesus Luzardo that tries to satiate the appetite of Phillies fans for another win. How about that, huh? He's on the mound tonight with his 8-5 record, 4.29 ERA, and he struck out 129 in 109 innings pitched. Now, remember, I talked about Lazardo's last start right before the All-Star break and how that is going to affect how we view him. There was a pretty solid layoff between when we saw Lazardo pitch last and where we're at now. Not as long as Wheeler, not as long as Sanchez, but you got an opportunity to see him against the Angels and say, okay, well, we're in a situation where he can look really darn good. And he looked really darn good. I mean, he took care of business against them and threw well. I mean, his last start out was a solid performance by Lazardo. And you should feel pretty darn good about what you were able to get out of him in that instance. So, okay, how does that build into the second half momentum? Well, part of it is over the break, we were thinking Lazardo, hey, look darn good. Maybe he is that pitcher we saw at the start of the year. The other side, it's been a while. So it'd help if he reminds us, because Lazardo is this weird figure in the Philadelphia Phillies season so far. He's been one of their better pitchers, like all-encompassing, all-staff. He has had starts that equal or come close to equaling what Ranger Suarez has done at his best starts, Cristopher Sanchez has done at his best starts, Zach Wheeler has done at his best starts. But he's just not doing it as consistently as those other guys. Maybe Ranger, because Ranger's had a couple of rough ones this year, but not nearly as rough as Lazardo. So we're still trying to figure that out. And with questions about the playoff rotation becoming louder and louder and the deadline being more and more important and closer, it's going to be paramount that the Phillies use this start to try and get a good idea of who they have in Lazardo. If it's a rough start, I'm not saying they're going to trade him. They're not. But let's say he goes out and he gives up 6 earned tonight. And the Phillies are sitting there saying 4 innings, 6 earned, kind of got shelled. Oh, we got Ranger, we got Wheeler, we got Sanchez. Lazardo, we might not need to start building a contingency plan for him to go to the bullpen. They're not going to do it in July, but I'm just saying, like, this is the time of year where you start having those conversations because you don't want it to sneak up on you in late September and say, what in the world are we doing with our pitching staff? So he will be a guy that I'm watching very, very closely tonight. He's facing off against Lucas Giolito. And Giolito, quality pitcher. You know the name. You know he's got a good arm. He's having an okay year. 6-2 win-loss record for the Red Sox, a 3.59 ERA. In 77 2/3 innings, he's only struck out 70, though. His strikeout stuff has just not been there this year, and it's another righty, so the Phillies can just kind of settle in and put their normal lefty lineup out there. I'd expect the lineup to be nearly the same as it was last night. Now, here's where it gets tricky, right, with the lineup. Let's talk about this for a second. So what have we said about Bryce Harper? Well, manage the wrist injury. Probably going to get Wednesdays off so that he has Wednesday and Thursdays off when the Phillies have a Thursday off day. Tomorrow, the Phillies are off. So this would be the perfect time to get Bryce Harper some rest, right? Maybe, maybe not. Because the way that the Phillies would get Bryce Harper rest before was Alec Bohm at first, Otto Kemp at third, and then you figure it out from there, right? Well, Alec Bohm is currently on the injured list with a slight fracture in his rib. So you've already got Otto Kemp playing at third, and you've been using Edmundo Sosa occasionally at second to platoon with Bryson Stott. Now, with a righty on the mound, they could probably just go Stott at second, Kemp over at first, Sosa at third, Turner at shortstop. But is that the lineup that you want to trot out there? I know protecting the players is the most important thing, but that doesn't really sound like a great lineup, especially when Bryce Harper is swinging it so well. I would hate to see them sit Bryce Harper, but I know it's probably the smart thing long term. So do they do the smart thing for the long term? Or do they say, hey, he's swinging a hot bat. He feels all right. We're going to keep him in the lineup. I think today will show you whether or not Bryce Harper's feeling good or whether or not Bryce Harper is – and, like, here's it, right? If he doesn't play today, I don't think it's because he feels bad or hurt or like he's uncomfortable. I just think that means we're where we were before. The wrist is an issue, something to manage. If he plays today, it's, yeah, I guess the wrist is kind of an issue, but if we get in a big spot and we need me to play in a game right before an off day, I can do that. And that would make me feel better about the postseason. I'm not going to go anywhere negative, but I will become more positive if Harper plays in the game. So we'll see that when the lineup comes out later. And I'm also going to see if Kyle Schwarber can really continue to stay hot at the plate because he has been tearing the cover off the baseball here. Maybe that All-Star break home run derby challenge thing, the swing off, maybe that jump-started him because he's been hitting the ball out of the yard since he came back from the All-Star break. That's a good feeling for him. That's a good feeling for Phillies fans. Now, can the Phillies get to Lucas Giolito? Not a heavy strikeout guy. So I'd imagine, like I always worry about lefties who are big-time strikeout guys against the Philadelphia Phillies. But righties who do not strike out that much, be patient, put the ball in play. Good things are going to happen. You're not going to get struck out very much. Maybe this is a night where the Phillies have a little more consistent creation. And also with the bullpen burned last night for the Red Sox, Richard Fitz not going too deep into the game, maybe this is a chance where you just work the pitch count for the first 4 innings, and then you try and get to the pen. They have some of their lesser guys, and you win it that way. Lazardo should be able to give you enough time to make that strategy decision. So, do I think the Phillies are going to win tonight? No, I do not, because I don't think they have their best lineup. I think Giolito is still a pretty good pitcher. And Lazardo, I think, is going to be good, but I don't know if he'll be good enough to hold up this lineup if they are down Bryce Harper for an off day. Also, whenever you see a team trying to fight off a sweep, it's hard to bet against them because it's so hard to sweep, right? I think the Phillies are in a good spot, but I think this is a very toss-up game, and when it's a toss-up, I lean in favor of the team that is fighting for more, which is the team that is trying not to get swept. And the Red Sox are still a quality team. I mean, they're 54-49, 5 games above 500, even after losing the first 2 to the Phillies. So, tough matchup. We'll see if the offense can do more tonight to carry rather than just relying on a great outing by their starting pitcher. But with Lazardo's upside, they could get that as well. Either way, we're going to be talking about the series tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies. So make sure you tune into that. That's all for today's episode, though. I appreciate you joining us. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. And I will talk to you tomorrow on our next episode.